Have you ever wished you could just sit down and have a conversation with the Buddha? Well, today we're going to do something kind of like that. We're not just reading an ancient text, we are cracking its code. We're going to peel back 2,500 years of history to uncover a hidden meaning that might just change, well, everything. So think about it. All that ancient wisdom you've come across, what if we've been reading it all wrong? I mean, what if the standard translations, the ones in all the books, are actually missing the real point? What if just one little word, translated just a tiny bit differently, could flip a core teaching completely on its head? It's a wild thought, right? Okay, so here's our game plan. Think of it like a deep dive, an archaeological dig with 3 passes. First, we'll look at this ancient text through a modern lens. Then, and this is the cool part, we're going to listen with an ancient ear to hear what people actually heard 2,500 years ago. We'll visualize that difference, and then we'll get into this absolutely brilliant ladder analogy the Buddha uses, all before we uncover what the real goal of the path actually is. You ready? Let's do it. All right, so the text we're diving into is called the Cūḻasakuludāyisutta. Basically, it's a conversation between the Buddha and this spiritual seeker, a guy named Udayi. And Udayi, well, he's super confident. He thinks he's got it all figured out, that he's reached the absolute pinnacle of wisdom. But the Buddha, in his incredibly masterful way, is about to gently and completely take apart Udayi's entire worldview, piece by piece. So to get to the real heart of it, we're using this 3-step method. It really is like an archaeological dig. First, gotta brush off all the surface dust, the modern assumptions. Then we'll dig a little deeper to find the original structure. And finally, we get to bring that artifact out into the light and see it for what it really is. Okay, let's get started. First pass, the modern lens. This is basically how you or I would understand the key phrase in this text if we just, picked up a standard dictionary today. So this whole debate between the Buddha and Udayi, it really boils down to just one key concept. Udayi keeps saying over and over that he knows the supreme form. He is absolutely convinced this is the ultimate truth. And that idea, supreme form, that's the central puzzle we have to solve. So, okay, what do? We look up the original Pali phrase, paramo varno, in a modern dictionary. And it tells us paramo means supreme and varno means form. Simple enough. You put them together and you get the supreme form. Sounds pretty deep, right? Very philosophical, very profound. Seems to make perfect sense. Or does it? But this is where it gets really, really interesting. What happens when we put that modern dictionary aside and try to listen with an ancient ear? I mean, how would someone sitting right there, listening to the Buddha 2,500 years ago, how would they have understood that exact same phrase? This is where we use a little linguistic magic called naruti. It's basically root analysis, and trust me, it changes everything. See, for the Buddha's audience, the word varna wasn't some abstract philosophical concept. No way. It was super concrete. It meant color, complexion, the literal outer surface of a thing. So, paramo varno, it doesn't mean the supreme form. A much more accurate, down-to-earth translation is, get this, the ultimate paint job. I mean, just look at that difference. It's night and day. We go from something so sublime and philosophical to something that's almost comically superficial. This completely reframes the whole dialogue. Suddenly, Ujjayi isn't claiming to know some deep cosmic truth. He's basically just bragging that he knows what the best possible exterior looks like. It's a total game changer. And believe me, this isn't just a word game. This one little change in translation completely alters how we see the entire conversation. So let's do that. Let's visualize the difference right now. So when you hear the supreme form, what do you picture? Probably something like a perfect marble statue, right? It feels timeless, flawless. It's this sublime ideal you're supposed to revere. It feels like it represents some deep, ultimate reality. But the ultimate paint job, that brings up a totally different image, doesn't it? Suddenly you're thinking of, a cheap piece of furniture with a super flashy coat of paint slapped on to make it look expensive. It's all surface, all show, hiding something cheap or maybe even empty underneath. It's all about appearance, not substance at all. And of course, the Buddha saw right through this. He told Udayi, your claim, it's like a man saying he's desperately in love with the most beautiful woman in the whole country. But then you ask him, okay, what's her name? What does her family do? Where does she even live? And he has no idea. He's in love with a completely hollow concept, just an empty image.
But wait, the Buddha isn't done yet. Oh no. He then proceeds to masterfully dismantle Udayi's entire idea of ultimate with another, even more powerful visual metaphor.
He builds what I like to call a ladder of light. He starts really small. He asks Udayi, what's brighter, a firefly or an oil lamp? The lamp. Okay, the lamp or a great big fire? The fire. And step by step by step, he just walks him up this ladder of brightness. From the fire to the morning star, from the star to the full moon, and from the moon all the way up to the blinding light of the midday sun. So now Udayi is probably thinking, okay, the sun, that's got to be it. That's the ultimate. And right then, the Buddha just pulls the rug out from under him. He says essentially, oh, there are beings out there whose radiance is so incredible, it makes our sun look like a tiny firefly. And then comes the final blow, and even that is not the ultimate. Wow. In one single move, the Buddha just showed Udayi that his whole concept of supreme was laughably incredibly small. So, where does that leave us? And more importantly, where does it leave Udayi? After the Buddha has completely dismantled all these superficial ideas, he finally reveals what the real goal is. He points him toward a much, much deeper path. Udayi, bless his heart, makes one last attempt. He shifts his argument from a perfect form to a perfect place. He starts talking about a world of absolute pleasure. But the Buddha just calmly shows him, nope, it's the exact same mistake. Even that so-called perfect world is temporary, it's flawed. Yep, it's just another paint job. So what is the real goal then? Well, it has absolutely nothing to do with finding a perfect form or some perfect world. The Buddha lays out the actual path. And it's all about training your mind. It's about achieving these incredibly deep meditative states, remembering past lives, seeing how the rebirth of other beings works, and then the big one, the complete and total destruction of the mental taints that cause all our suffering. The goal isn't some perfect surface, it's total, complete liberation. So the real takeaway here is just so profound. The spiritual path isn't a hunt for the best paint job. It's not about desperately clinging to some ideal surface, whether that's a perfect body, a perfect feeling, or a perfect world. It's about developing the wisdom, the clarity to see right through all the surfaces and to finally end the very attachment that binds us to them in the first place. And that's what brings this 2,500-year-old conversation crashing right into our lives today. I mean, think about our world, so completely obsessed with image, with surfaces, with appearance. It makes this the perfect question to ask ourselves, doesn't it? What ultimate truths in your life might just be a surface-level paint job?